Foss here from District 109, running for the State House Representatives. District 109 is the south side of Gilman Street here in Waterville, down to the Sydney line, and from the Oakland Town line over to the Kennebec River. Today's video is talking about the Maine State Chamber of Commerce's Mary Roll Call. The Maine Economic Research Institute's basically a grading system for all of our legislators, both the Senate and the House of Representatives right here in the state of Maine. This roll call came out a couple of days ago in the mailboxes. It is not online yet, but I have secured a copy of it, and we're going to put it in my Dropbox and put a link to it so that you can read the whole thing yourself at the end of this video. So we talk about the economic drivers of how the state is run, and so let's get into that in a minute here. What I want to bring up is the roll call from Mary, or Mary, however you want to pronounce that. Maine Economic Research Institute is a nonpartisan, independent, not-for-profit organization formed to conduct research, analysis, and reporting on economic issues. Mary's methodology, a tested model operating in 23 states across the country, some for more than 25 years, is rooted in the basic business concepts of accountability and performance review. A particular focus for Mary is how state policies affect Maine's economy. Okay, nonpartisan, not-for-profit, independent. Great. My name's going to be in this report, just like every other legislator of the 130th, starting next year. So happy to see this report come out. So it's a scoring system, much like when we had, much like we got our report cards back in grade school. How do they get to their scores? The final rankings are based on a combination of recorded votes on selected bills. They did 9 bills, and a qualitative survey of government relations professionals that represent Maine's business community before the Maine legislature. See, fair enough. You're on record, and how the government relations professionals see you. Seems pretty straightforward. I like it. So in that, there's a grading system, okay? And you're going to see that here in a few minutes. If a legislator scores a 75 to 100, they are a very strong supporter of Maine's economy. If they score 55 to 75, they're a strong supporter. 35 to 54, they're a weak supporter. And then 0 to 34 is a very weak supporter. So 0 being the bottom side, 100 being the top side. Now, I went through all of the all of the scoring for all of our legislators. Nobody scored 100. Closest I saw was a 95.72, if I remember right. It was Representative Harrington, Republican, out of, I don't know where his district is. Okay, but he was the top scorer that I saw. I may have missed one in there a little higher, but 95 was the highest one that I saw. So Harrington is a very strong supporter. Okay, somebody that's looking at the bills and figuring out how this is going to affect business, which is going to affect employment, which is going to affect, you can see the snowball effect of how this goes. The reason I bring this up is because Maine's projected to see a revenue shortfall to the state of Maine of $1.3 billion over the next 2 years. They're actually saying $500 million for this fiscal year and $800 million for the next fiscal year. In my previous video, we talked about LD 1001, which was the budget vote, which was voted through for an 11% or $800 million increase in state spending. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't see an 11% increase in my pay. The governor's ideas to try to cut down that shortfall is to pull money out of the road and bridges funding. So in April, when the frost heaves are coming, I know some of these roads around here are pretty bad. And I know that they also didn't get, if I remember right, they didn't get all the funding they needed. The DOT didn't get all the funding for the roads and bridges anyways. But she's going to pull money out of that. Also, if you remember right, back in the LePage days, and not touting LePage, Governor LePage at all, liquor revenue. He used that to help with the pay off actually the hospital debt that the state of Maine had incurred. She wants to go after that money. Okay, so how are we going to pay for services? How are we going to do this? $800 million added onto the budget, and we're facing a $1.3 billion loss of revenue over the next 2 years. I'm not seeing it. So the reason I'm bringing this up is we need strong leadership down there to make those tough decisions. Okay, make sure that they're reading every bill. There's nine bills that they talk about in here, and I'm going to put a link down at the bottom to give you access to this that's coming out, and eventually it will show up online. Right now, online on the Maine Chamber of Commerce site, it is still listing the 2017 and 2018 legislation, which is the 128th. So let's circle back to our candidates. Who's running for what? Okay. Now, I'm not in this because I'm not in the House yet. So let's pull this down. So now we've seen how the grading system works. So I know a lot of you that are tuning into this are from Waterville, but not particularly in my district. You're from north side of Waterville, so I wanted to pull this up for you so that you have all the information in front of you. I know ballots, absentee ballots are flowing in right now, and then a lot of us are going to go vote on November 3rd. Representative Madigan, out of a possible 0 to 100, scored a 22. Okay. I don't 22. I think that speaks enough for that. My opponent scored a 45. So I said, okay, 22, 45. These are the people that are representing us, Waterville. We need better minds down there, doing a better job of getting our economic engine in Maine running again. If we get more jobs and bring the economy back around, we could take care of that $1.3 billion shortfall, maybe. We also need to start cutting some spending too. That $800 million is part of where the problem is. Who do you think is going to pay for that in the end? Us. We've seen ads on TV and on Facebook about a carbon tax, 40 cents a gallon carbon tax. Okay, that did not make it through last legislature, but we already know that it's coming through this legislature, and we need strong bodies that are going to oppose this. I'm opposed to it, 100%. I can't imagine a 40 cent per gallon tax coming down. So I said, okay, so let's figure out where, let's do a side-by-side comparison, okay? So Speaker Gideon, which happens to be running for Congress, scored a 19. Okay, not sure how that's going to work out for us. But more importantly about this is I looked at all the bills, and you can see at the top the bill numbers. And our two representatives that represent us in Waterville went lock and step with Speaker Gideon. Speaker Gideon was absent for one of them. But other than that, they went lock and step. I don't think that's a great approach, especially after reading some of these. I could see where it would be troubling to businesses, which hurts their bottom line, which hurts their employment, the employees. Things like this is what's going to hold back that Maine economy that I know is sitting there just waiting to go. We can do better. We must do better. If we're planning on keeping our youth in Maine, we can't be taxing them out of the economy. There's a report in here, folks, that shows that Maine in 2017, there's rankings in here. Maine's tax burden, third highest among 50 states. We can do better. There's ways of doing it. Tough decisions are going to need to be made. But I'm going to give you a link to this so that you can go see it yourself. So to everybody that's already voted for me, I appreciate your vote. I appreciate your confidence. I'm going to go down there and do your work. Everybody that hasn't yet, come vote for me, either by absentee ballot at the City Hall, or come see me on come see us on November 3rd and put a check mark in my box. Let me go to work for you. Have a great night, folks.